Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we'll make some chocolate twists. I've been wanting to make these for so long, but I never knew how to. It turns out they're super simple. And the result, speaks for itself. They look amazing. And you can make them with various fillings, it doesn't have to be chocolate. And if you're not into chocolate twists, check out the playlist in top right corner, because I have all sorts of buns and sweet bakes on my channel. But for now, let's get on with this. And as always, you'll find a full recipe with all the details down in the description box. So first things first, let's see what equipment we need. We'll need a bowl, scales, dough scraper, temperature probe, a brush, a tray or two with non-stick paper, a rolling pin, and a little bowl with a spatula. Now onto the ingredients. We'll need some strong white bread flour, milk, yeast, salt, sugar, some soft butter. Then for the filling, we'll need some more soft butter, some more sugar, cinnamon, and cocoa powder. And we'll use an egg yolk mixed with 1 teaspoon of milk for glazing. This is my favorite kind of glaze. It works for so many different breads. Right, so let's begin by making the filling. Get a bowl, add your sugar, the cocoa powder, cinnamon, and give it all a good mix. You don't necessarily have to have a spatula. You could do this with a spoon if you don't have a spatula, but it works better with a spatula. Now give everything a good mix before you add the butter. Now add the butter and mix well. But don't rush it, you don't want to make a mess on your table. Now we can keep this aside for later. You could even make this a day ahead of time. And keep it out at room temperature. If you put it in the fridge, it'll go solid like a brick. So let's get on with the dough. I'm going to use cold milk. To learn more about dough temperature control, click the link in top right corner. Now get your bowl, add your milk, the yeast, salt, and the sugar, and then just give it all a good mix before adding the flour. Now the reason why I'm using cold milk is because kneading dough by hand warms it up a lot, and you don't want your dough to be too warm. Now stir this mix well. You want to hydrate the yeast and dissolve any large sugar crystals before adding the flour. Now in with the flour, start mixing with your dough scraper. You want to mix it in the bowl until there's no more dry flour left. And if the scraper is not doing the job, continue on by hand. Just mix it until it's one cohesive piece to avoid making a mess on your table. Now we can start kneading. This dough is not very sticky, so I'm going to use a regular kneading method here. What I like to do is press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand, then using the fingers of my left hand, I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand, then turn and repeat. Once you've done this a few times, the motion will become fluent. Right, we want to keep doing this for 3 minutes. And 3 minutes later, once we got some gluten going, we can stretch the dough out and add the butter, the final ingredient for the dough. This is going to be a bit messy, but there's no other way. Just slap your butter on the dough, fold it in, and now just press it and squeeze it and smush it up. You want to try and combine the butter with the dough. Keep doing this for around 30 seconds, and after that, you can start kneading again. Same method as before, but as you can see, it's a massive mess. But don't worry about that, just keep kneading and it'll all come together. And you can grab your scraper and scrape it all together and then continue kneading. But this is the best way of adding fat to your dough. If we had added the butter right at the beginning, it would be very difficult to develop any gluten in this dough. And that is why we have to squeeze it in. You want to keep kneading for around 3 to 4 more minutes after adding the butter. And once your dough is nice and smooth, it's ready. Get your bowl, place your dough in it, and take the temperature. 25 to 26 degrees Celsius what we're after. If your dough is warmer, it will ferment more quickly. If it's cooler, it will take longer, so just keep an eye on it. But 45 to 60 minutes for the first proof should be sufficient. And it should start puffing up during this time. And after the first proof, we need to give it a fold. Performing a fold is quite easy. Just release your dough from the bowl, place it down on your table, smooth side pointing down. Then stretch it out, fold the edges over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. And you have a nice tight ball. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and back in the bowl it goes. Folding benefits the dough in a number of ways. You'll degas it, you'll create extra layers in gluten structure, and also equalize the temperature in the dough. If your kitchen was cold, the outside of your dough would have cooled down, but the inside would still be warm, so by folding, we are distributing this temperature evenly throughout the dough, thus giving us an even fermentation. So once you've done your fold, place your dough back into the bowl, cover it up, and leave it for 45 to 60 more minutes. Now it should really start puffing up. And now it's time to shape. Dust your dough with flour, release it from the bowl, place it out on the table, smooth side down. What I like to do is start by hand, not with a rolling pin, so dust your dough with flour generously and press it out with your hands in a general shape. And only then grab your rolling pin and start rolling. And you want to roll this until it's a huge rectangle. Patience is key here, don't rush it. If the dough doesn't want to stretch, then you're best off leaving it for 5 minutes to sit and relax before continuing, instead of rolling it out and forcing it. And once you've rolled it out, brush off any excess flour and turn it so that one short end is facing you. Now grab your filling and start spreading it on. But be gentle here, you don't want to poke a hole in the dough. The filling is quite stiff, so it will not be very easy to spread it out. Just be patient. With a light touch, everything is possible. And if you have a spatula like this one, use it. But if you don't, then your dough scraper will do the job just as well. So like I said, easy does it. Just slowly spread it out and make sure it's all in a nice even layer. And leave a 5 cm or 2 inch gap at the top uncovered. We're going to use this to seal the dough up. So once you've finished spreading your filling, divide the dough in 3 and then fold it over. So take the bottom third and fold it up. Try to get it as straight as possible. Now wet your hand with water and brush the dough. This will make it stick. Now take the top part and fold it down to the bottom. And again, try and have it as straight as possible, but if it's not, it's not the end of the world. It's still gonna taste the same. And from here you could make various buns. And I have plenty of videos on that. But what you want to do now is dust the dough with flour, flip it upside down, dust it once again from the top, cut the ends off, and then divide it into 8. And once you've divided them, you can stretch them out a little bit. But whenever you're working with this kind of dough, you want to make sure there's a light dusting of flour. Because when you cut through it, the filling wants to stick to the scraper. So once you divided it, cut a slit down the middle, keeping the ends attached. And now comes the part when we twist them. And it couldn't be simpler. Take one of those strips and just twist it in on itself. Twist it once on one end, and then do the same on the opposite end. Just make sure you're twisting in the opposite direction, otherwise you'll just unravel it again. And that's your chocolate twist. I mean, look how simple that was. It looks beautiful. And like I said, you could fill these with whatever you like. It could even be savory, put some cheese and bacon in it. So once you finish shaping them, get your tray with parchment paper and place them on there. Make sure you leave nice gaps between them. My tray is not big enough, so I'm going to use 2 trays. So at this point you want to start preheating your oven to 160 degrees Celsius, 320 Fahrenheit with a fan on. Now cover these babies up and leave them to ferment. They should not take more than an hour, but of course if your kitchen is cold, they may take longer. You want them to be visibly puffed up. And when you poke them with your finger, it should leave a nice indentation. That's when you know when they're ready. Now let's brush them with the glaze. This will make them nice and shiny. Give them a beautiful golden brown color. Brush them gently and make sure you don't brush the filling too much, otherwise it will drag along with the brush and you will end up smearing it on the dough. Now my oven's not big enough for all these, so I'm going to keep these 2 in the fridge so they don't over ferment while I bake the first ones. They should take around 20 to 25 minutes, and once they're puffed up and golden brown all over, they're ready. Let them sit for 5 minutes before moving them. That's how you make chocolate twists. They're best served warm, fresh from the oven. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you subscribe for more. Check out my other videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, write them down in comments. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.